Hello everyone, in this video I'll be covering AP Computer Science A topic 1.2, which is all about data types and variables. So to start off, we need to know what a data type actually is. So a good way to look at data types is just imagining that you have a giant toolbox. So obviously you're going to have different compartments for different types of tools. So you'll have one for screws, one for hammers, one for wrenches. And if you were to try to put a hammer in the screw section, it just won't work. And that's exactly how data types work in Java. So a data type is basically a classification that tells Java what kind of data a variable can hold and what operations you can do with it. So if you were to declare a number, Java would need to know whether it's a whole number or decimal. And if you declare a true or false value, Java would need to know when it can only be one of those two. Now there are three basic primitive data types you have to know. So we have the integer, which can hold numbers such as 10, -5, and then 200,000. So basically any number without a decimal. And then, so we have the double data type, which holds decimal numbers like 3.14, 2.7654, 321, or just -0.2. So it can just hold decimals. So the only issue with using doubles is it uses more memory. And then we have booleans, which hold true or false, so it's kind of like an on or off switch. And then we have reference data types, which hold memory addresses instead of actual data. So you can think of it kind of like a mailing address. So the reference just tells Java where to find an object in the memory. But for now, you just need to remember that reference types include things such as strings and objects that were created from classes, which we'll cover in the later units. It's not that important in Unit 1. So I'm just going to start off with how we actually declare a variable in Java now that we actually understand what a data type is. So if you go into our program, you can see I have myprogram.java, and I'm going to go right inside the main method here. And let's say you wanted to define how old we are. So me personally, I'm 16. So to always declare a variable, we go ahead and type which data type we want. So I want an integer because I just want my age, and obviously my age, I don't want to put a decimal point. I mean, you could put a decimal point if you want, but I don't feel like finding out the exact decimal of how old I am. But if you want to do that, go for it. You can do that once we get to doubles. But I'm just going to do integer age equals 16. And don't forget a semicolon. So basically, you put the data type, we put the name of the variable, and then we set it to whatever we want the value to be. In this case, I'm putting 16. And, all right, let's see. So for doubles, a good example would be if we want to hold the price of something. So let's say we are like making a price. So we can do double price equals 9.99. And in an integer, you cannot put 9.99. The closest thing you could put to that is just 10. So an integer cannot hold a decimal point. And then to define a boolean, which is an on or off switch, so a true or false value, we could do something like boolean is raining equals false because it's not raining outside for me right now. So that's basically how you define these three primitive data types. Now, for primitive types, the actual value is stored directly into memory. So every variable has some kind of memory associated with it, but we just need to know how Java actually stores values. So again, primitive types, the actual value is stored directly into memory. So you can see we're setting integer age to 16. So it's basically storing 16 directly into the memory. But for reference types like strings, Java would store the memory address instead of the actual value. So you can imagine this like writing down a locker number instead of carrying the actual item itself. So that's basically how Java would manage reference types or bigger objects. So the last thing that I want to talk about is the final keyword. So let's say we have a value that we're never going to change. So obviously, if we wanted to ever change, let me just delete these two for now. So let's say we have this price, right? Let's say if we're really stuck to a price, like we're not going to change it. So this is obviously the final price, right? Because we're not going to change the price. So we're never going to have a sale or anything like that. We can add the final keyword. So we're never going to be able to change price. Now, what if we did want to change the price value? Well, we could do price equals. So we're changing the price like this. So we can do price equals, let's do 950. So let's just knock off 50 cents for the price. Now notice that this is underlined in red, and the reason this is underlined in red is because we already declared price as final using the final keyword. So this means that that price is never going to be changed. So this will be the final value of price. But if we remove the final keyword, notice that this red underline removes, and if we go ahead and save the program, and we do run, well, nothing's gonna happen yet. Let's go ahead and print this. So to print a variable, it's not like a string literal, as you can recall from 1.1. So before it was hello world like this, and this is obviously just going to print hello world to the console. But how do we actually print prices? Or well, any primitive type. So if we had int price, double price, boolean is raining or whatever, to just print it to the console, all we have to do is just type the name of the variable, and we do not want quotation marks. We do not want double quotation marks at all. Now the reason we don't want that is because when we use quotation marks, we're telling the program exactly what we want the console to say. So if we were to do quotation marks around price, you'll notice that it will literally say price in the console. But we don't want it to say price in the console, we want it to say the price variable. So when we type price, we're actually referencing it in earlier in the code. So if we go ahead and run this, notice that it prints 9.5. So you can see we have 99 here, and then we're changing that variable to 9.5. And if we were to remove this line of code right here, it should say 999 because we're not updating that variable later in the code. And so that's basically all we need to know for um, 1.2. So just a quick recap: Java data types define what kind of data a variable can hold. So we have primitive types, which are integers, doubles, and booleans, which store simple values. And then we have reference types like strings. And I actually didn't go over how to define a string. So let's say we want to define a string. Okay, so we're going to do string name, and then we're going to put our name. So I'm just going to put Friendo, that's my YouTube channel name. So you can see, just like a primitive type, we typed string right here, and then we did name equals Friendo. So if we wanted to print name to the console, we do system.out.println, and then we can just add name right here, and this should reference the Friendo string literal right here. And if you go ahead and run this, you'll see it says Friendo in the console. So that's basically how you define the string reference type. And we also have to know that variables hold values in memory, and primitive types store actual data, while reference types store addresses. And the last thing that we learned is the final keyword makes a variable value unchangeable. And that's basically it. And like and subscribe if this video helped you guys. And I'll see you in 1.3.